Welcome back. This is still the morning brief right here. And now we will be talking about enhancing food security in Nigeria. But before we begin this, let's talk about some of the major figures that we have. I mean, according to some reports by the Food and Agricultural Organization, Nigeria actually has 70.8 million hectares of agricultural land area, planting various food products. And despite the significant investment in local food production, Nigeria's food imports has hit more than $6.9 billion. That's according to reports 2 years ago. But the question will now be, if Nigeria is producing so much, why are we still importing? Well, our guest today is Banjoko. He's a farmer and MD BO Farms. He's right here with us in our Lagos studio. And we also have in our Abuja studios the senator from APC in Benue State, Titus Tartenger Zam, and we'll be addressing farmer-herder clashes. We'll also be addressing food insecurity in Nigeria. Thank you for joining us on the program. My first question will be to you, farmer, Mr. Banjoko. Thank you for joining us again.
Yeah.
What is the real issue at this moment? You are a farmer. It looks like that sector is most affected by some of these policies and some of the actual things when we talk about realities on ground at the moment. Give us a sense of how farmers are affected, especially when it comes to insecurity in the country.
Okay, thank you. And I think we are affected in a number of ways. So we'll just probably highlight one or two and see how much of it we can deal with. First, when we talk about the insecurity that we are facing as farmers, a lot of farms have been abandoned. As at 2012, 12 trillion worth of project has been abandoned in the agric space. This year alone, about 332 farmers have been killed between January and now. And that tells you what the farmers are facing. And another report says it's not even 332, it's 2,134, thereabout. And in the same period last year, we were talking of 128 people killed. And of course, we know it's not everything that's even been reported. So that tells you who hears such numbers and wants to go to farm. And then you hear that between November 2020 and November 2023 that we have the reporters at now, or in the Northwest alone, about 224 million has been paid as ransom by farmers. So it's not really an interesting time for farmers. And then I think I posted a picture of myself on the farm some months back with mobile security surrounding me and vigilantes surrounding me to tell food that's why food is expensive at times, because you have to pay for your own security at some point, at some location. So those are some of the issues I think we are facing. The insecurity is real, although it's fair in some areas, it's fair in some states, but in some areas it's really a threat. And the more farms are abandoned, the more we'll be facing what we are facing. So there needs to be confidence of people going to the farm. So we are not doing too well in that area. Even in the area of funding, I don't believe we are doing too well at the moment. We are still allocating 1% of our entire budget to food when people are doing 10% or more as a nation. So that is also not an area we are doing too well. And despite that mega allocation, you still look at the breakdown of some of those expenses, and you can see that it's not being well utilized. We have to do more of investment into direct production, like developed nations are doing, where what you want to first achieve is to have enough. When you have enough, then you start talking about, okay, what are the next phase? Though we have been confronted with some of those issues, we still have issues of our supply chain. We still have a lot of gaps. We still have our post-harvest losses doing over 3 trillion or so annually. That's still a major gap, telling us we can still do something with it. No, we are talking about we don't have enough. Part of what we even manage to produce are going to waste. Now we are talking about the lean season, where everybody talk about tomato. Some are talking about using cucumber instead of tomato, but how long can you do that? And then we are talking about looking at the output we are having is even still very low. On most farms. You'll still be talking of maybe for maize 2 tons per hectare, 3 tons per hectare, and then when some nations are doing 10 tons, same for rice, same for cassava, we are still doing below global average. So I think our best practice is still not good enough.
Okay, let's go to Senator Titus Zam, who actually sponsored the bill on ranching. If you recall the anti-open grazing law, which was enacted by the former governor, Samuel Ortom. Let's talk about that anti-open grazing law. Some have said that you actually sponsored this bill because you are from that part of the country, in Benue State. How did the anti-open grazing law fare in terms of, did it do any good on the side of farmers and for herders?
Well, I'd like to say he who wears the shoes knows where it pinches. And my case is that of someone who is personally affected by the incidents of farmers, herders, violent clashes in the last few years. I am a son of a renowned farmer, and I belong to a farming community in Benue State. And my people in the last few years have had the misfortune of being sacked from their villages, from their farmlands, and they are now living in IDP camps, and their own villages are taken over by the marauding herders. So I have it as a personal experience, and being an elected representative of my people, it is only natural that I should take the concern to the center where I feel something should be done to stem this tide of violent clashes between sedentary farmers and nomadic herders. My thinking is that, and I think most of Nigerians, is that when we stop this practice of carrying animals with arms and ammunition and ransacking villages and farmlands, and you rank those animals and keep them in one place, then you would have solved this problem of farmers' herders crisis. So the motivation behind this bill advocating for ranching is that my people, and indeed the whole of Benue State, which used to be the food basket of the nation as a result of the huge farming population there, have now lost their farmlands, and they are now living in IDP camps as displaced people. And so it is both a moral and political responsibility on my part to take this route of seeking that animals be ranched and kept in one place.
Right.
That is the reason behind this bill.
Well,
it's only a coincidence that I am from Benue State, right, where the former governor had also made a lot of publicity about ranching law. If I came from Borno or from Zamfara and I see this menace of herders farmers crisis, I would still have been in the forefront of calling for a way out of this economic problem occasioned by the farmers herders crisis. My dear colleague who spoke from the Lagos studio already alluded to the fact that agricultural production has suffered a great deal due to the incidence of farmers herders crisis. And you know that this country thrives on subsistence farming. That's where bulk of the food is produced in this country. And when most of the farmlands are taken over by rampaging herders, you can only imagine the implication of that on the food security in this country. So this is the time for Nigeria to rise to the occasion of finding ways, adopting the best international practice in animal husbandry, which is ranching. Nobody carries animals across the length and breadth of the country and then create problems along the way, face all manner of hazards. This is old practice. You know, there is a maxim of old habits die hard, and I think that is the problem that is bedeviling our pastoralists in this country. But we must modernize. We must adopt new techniques in animal husbandry so that we can have peace and economic development will thrive in this country.
And I think we can talk about how well or otherwise this law performed in Benue State on one level, but then we understand that Benue State, it's not exactly like Nigeria as a whole, because there are more factors that come into play when you talk about the nation rather than just one state. So perhaps it might also help to look at how it played out in Benue State. But quickly, I want you to speak to this senator, if you can hear me. Naturally, when this conversation comes up, we'll come back to you, Senator Zam, but let me come to our guest in the studio. So we have a situation where security is causing food insecurity. Yeah. And now food insecurity is now causing a bigger challenge for us as a nation. So everything is just intertwined. And you talked about one issue at the heart of it, which is security for you going on farms. We were joking yesterday and saying it's raining. You know, people should see this as a season or as a reason to farm rather than that is as a reason for other things. But then we were cut short by the security situation yet again. So it's a real problem we have with us. For you as a farmer, something has been said quite a lot. That is there a conspiracy against food production in Nigeria? Is there like a concerted effort targeted at food production in Nigeria? If there is, what is the end game? How can we outsmart, if there is any conspiracy, outsmart that? I mean, we're very resilient people, really. We don't have a reason to not have food. From the southwest to the north,
all across
central,
the country.
we have land. Banjoko.
So I think, I don't know if I'll go the route of conspiracy. I'd rather say maybe we still lack the political will to resolve the matter. Because, you know, you look at the budget to defense. I'm not sure in the last 2-3 years they are complaining about funding. Yes, no matter what you allocate, they'll still complain. Yes, so even though they got, I think, 1.6 trillion, 5.7% of our budget this year. But my concern is, you look at those who have manned those ministries of defense now, their hierarchies. Most times when they leave the office, they are always being tried for this mismanagement. So I think it's the economy of the insecurity that is prolonging the matter. That's my personal assumption, that because a lot of people are profiting from this system, like the senator mentioned, some people are supplying, the IDP camp is being maintained by somebody. People have been, you know, you have to supply food, supply water, supply basic health facility, requirement to them. So I think it's the economy and what people are benefiting from the insecurity that is prolonging the matter. I believe that the president or those are our political leaders have that courage to end this, it will end.
Before I come to Senator Zam, I just want to ask you, because people have raised concerns about, we say that the North is not able to send in as much tomatoes. It's so funny that tomatoes are the heart of it, but that's not the only thing that is expensive. But I think tomato is just a celebrity here. So if the North is not able to supply, maybe from Kano, for various reasons. People don't go to farm, tomato, Ebola, and all of that. What happened to the Southwest? So what happened to the arable land? Is it that the Southwest also is not able to augment? Because we're looking at helping to balance it. Is it that the Southwest cannot grow tomato, cannot grow pepper in large quantity to be able to feed the Southwest and even support the North? Maybe even export. Is the Southwest handicapped?
No, we are not. But I think this is what we should look at. Each state has its own comparative advantage, where you have your strength, your soil is good. So before now, we were not doing so much in that area. But now we are doing, but the lands we have in the Southwest cannot be compared to what is in the North. That's the truth. They have massive lands cultivated for the same way. When you are traveling across the Southwest, what you'll be seeing is cassava, maize, oil palm, and all that. That's what you see in the north, that when you go to the north, you see them doing pepper, sesame seed and all that. So they do that in volumes that can be enough. But what we are facing now is that what the Southwest is producing cannot be enough for the country at the moment. So what we have is just augmenting what is being supplied before now. So imagine where you are having 100 tons, let's just for sake of numbers, and now the Southwest is producing, let's say, 10, 20 tons. So there'll still be shortage that ought to have come from a location. So that's, I'm not sure, not that we are incapacitated fully, but we are not, the lands we have, and now we are just going into that space. And what we are doing in that space is even more of greenhouse.
Right.
Not the open, and greenhouse is more expensive. So they can do theirs openly and do large hectares, but we do more of greenhouse in that space. Of course, people still do the open planting, but not as much as. Thank you.
Okay, so let's return to Senator Zam now in the hope that he can now hear us. I particularly want you to speak to the fate of that bill, at the National Assembly, particularly because at the time that it passed second reading at the Senate, it was not without, bickering by the senators, and we know how this anti-open grazing bill legislation across states of the Federation can be a source of division. And the resolution at that time was that it shouldn't be forced on states that do not practice open grazing. But, that even contradicts what we see now with even the Southwest. We see, cattle rearers, pushing their cattle on major roads. So what do you project to be the fate of this bill in case it encounters another opposition, perhaps at public hearing level or at the lower level? Would you specifically be proposing that the president signs an executive order on anti-open grazing law?
Well, no, I don't see the bill suffering any setback at the public hearing stage, because what the bill seeks to sort out is a problem that has bedeviled every part of this country, and that is the problem of violent clashes between sedentary farmers and the nomadic herders. Every patriotic Nigerian knows that the only way out of this crisis is that of having a law in place that will put pastoralists in one place as it is done in other climes and societies. So the resistance that you probably witnessed from a few number of my colleagues in the Senate was expected, because this is a practice, the open grazing practice has been with us for quite a long time. So shifting from it suddenly will naturally generate some ripples. But I know that a majority of Nigerians are waiting for the public hearing stage when they would come out en masse to support this bill. Know that this is not just about farmers, herders. It is about the unity of this country. When you have a particular practice that has created more problems than solution, then every right-thinking person would naturally support any effort geared towards sorting out such a problem. From north of this country to the south, we have had this problem of farmers' herders crisis. So it's just a matter of time. I do believe that the majority of Nigerians will support this bill, and the president will eventually sign it into law. I want to tell you on authority that even those of my colleagues who rose against this bill, we are only concerned about certain segments of the bill. For example, the proviso that ranches be only established in pastoral state of origin didn't go down well with some senators. The fact that the freedom of movement of pastoralists may have been infringed upon if that proviso is allowed to stay. But as I always ask, the constitution that gives you the freedom to move from point A to the other does not allow you to kill people from point A to point B and take over their lands. The constitution that allows you to carry your animals from one location to the other does not permit you to walk into people's farms, destroy the crops, and kill them when they resist. So I think majority of Nigerians, and indeed even my colleagues, when they sit down to critically look at the benefits of this bill, they too will appreciate that the bill seeks to provide a situation where both parties, that is the farmers and the herders, will have some kind of harmonious relationship by way of exchanges. If you come to Benue, got the same bill.
Pardon me, if I may come in here. And you've already pointed out what may seem to be a challenge to the bill, where some were raising the concern that you cannot infringe on the freedom of movement of the herders. And to that, some would say that it's not a challenge of lack of laws that we have in Nigeria, where indeed we have a surfeit of laws. But the real challenge would be how to get away from the major highways and streets of Nigeria, nomadic cattle herders into ranches and to embrace a more sedentary lifestyle. So give us a sense of what is contained in the component of your legislation that would ensure that they're taken off of the streets and they're made to embrace a sedentary lifestyle. Yes. Senator Zam, I wonder if you heard me. Okay,
yes,
go ahead.
I heard you.
Go ahead then.
I heard you. There is also a proviso in the proposed bill that should herders want to ply their trade in any states of the Federation, they should seek the approval of the host communities in liaison with the authorities there, and then acquire land to establish ranches in order to keep their animals there. It is not that they are totally shut out, but I said the law is emphatic about ranching. So wherever you go, should you get the consent of your host communities to get the land and establish ranches, you are welcome. So nobody is discriminating or stopping anybody from keeping animals, but it should be done in consonance with the laws of the land. At the moment, there are no laws on pastoralism. And so that is even the reason why people have taken advantage of carrying their animals everywhere. You made the point that there are many laws in the country and the problem is enforcement. Yes, there is, but when an action is regulated, it is better for you and me to now be in a position to measure whether there is an infraction or there is no infraction. As things stand now, there is no basis to measure the behavior or the movement of pastoralists from one location of the country to the other. That is even the reason why someone is even making reference to freedom of movement. Freedom of movement does not allow you to go and destroy someone's crops. If the law is put in place regulating pastoralism as a whole, then one would be able to now say this is right and this is wrong. So my belief is that the country will benefit more when this ranching law is put in place. And so everybody will know their limits.
All right,
you are not stopped from carrying animals from Sokoto or Kano or Zamfara in a vehicle to go and sell them in Lagos or Benin or wherever. But you must not stray into people's farmlands along the way. That's what the bill seeks to achieve. So the freedom of movement is no longer trampled upon when you are free to move in a vehicular form, not by carrying animals through people's farms and plantations. That is what the bill is after.
So let's take focus a little away from security and see what we as individuals, institutions, and public offices are doing in terms of achieving food sufficiency in Nigeria. This is to you, Mr. Banjoko. We have over 14 agricultural institutions in this country, a lot of them built on thousands of hectares of land. Then you now begin to ask, what are these institutions doing in terms of even improving agriculture? Some have said that some of these institutions haven't even planted seeds that they can even sell in markets in the country. So what should be done? How can we take the bull by the horn to, even if other institutions are not doing, if security is affecting farmers, or How about institutions?
But we can't leave them in isolation because they operate within the society. So we must admit that. So it's not enough. Most of them, I was reviewing a paper yesterday with some colleagues, and then we realized some of them have as much as 8,000 hectares.
Yes.
Where they are sitting. And of course, we were, looking at what some of them are producing. Is just far from that number. So we'll ask ourselves, they are being funded by the Ministry of Agric. How much is going to this institution? Both the research, they're about, I think there should be almost 44 on that ministry. So you look at how much are they getting. Is it enough for them to do any sizable mechanized operation? Or just to do a bit of research that sits on their table? And they can't even do, and what they do most times, like some of us practitioners make jest of them, sorry to use that word, is that you do a research on a plot of land, and you tell me what you did on a plot of land I should go and do on 200 hectares. And the result is not always the same. So people also do not buy into some of those research. Because you did it on a plot of land, and you're asking me to go and do it on 200 hectares. And most times, by the time you try it, it's not always the same result because they did it in a controlled environment with the little funds they have. So I think we should speak to them as well. They can also start generating revenue. Most of them are not thinking, finance or thinking business. So they are all thinking, my work is research, but they are not also looking at, can I also have a system that can sustain itself? But I think some universities are beginning to do that. I won't mention name, but I think some of them are beginning to look at what can we plant, what crops, what animals can we rear. So I think the advice should be most of them should stop looking for, this sharing from Abuja has done us more harm.
And that's my point exactly. There's a budget for agriculture. So must they wait until they begin to generate revenue? What is that funding deployed to?
Most of it goes to, overhead and personnel. Bulk of it, I can tell you. I think bulk of it goes to, but they can also start looking at what can we do with the little we have to add. They've not seen themselves as being in a place to contribute to the food chain. They've limited themselves to, our job is to provide new innovations. But now most of them should start thinking of how can we contribute to this. Like how they asked earlier on, we are completely relying on some part of the country and all that. So most of these issues now have to start coming together. Like if I'm to mention one of them in Ogun State, I think that might be even over 8,000 hectares. And now they are giving it to some factories to probably plant and all that. They are not using it, but leasing their land when they should probably get involved. So I think most of them now, but most of these guys that, I'm sorry to use the word guys, that manage these parastatals are not business minded. We need to now start probably getting business managers for them, look at how they can raise funds to see that if you also do this thing, you can make money. That will also even help the issue of the insecurity in one way or the other, because we have a lot of lands covered with bushes. I'm traveling now. When I leave your studio, you'll just be driving and all you'll be seeing is trees, and you're asking yourself,
and that could actually be farmland for crops.
Farmland for crops.
We're looking for.
I'm telling you, I'm going to pass through one of those institutions now, and I'm telling you, the number is between two communities. And in those days, in the 80s, they give you as much of land as you want. So, but those lands have been left on you, so they can start thinking business like that's for the institutions. But for the maybe individuals or private sector, we should start thinking long-term financing for agri, because that has also been our issue. Nigerian investors, people call every day, what can I do with 2 million and get money every 3 months? They're always thinking of every 3 months, and that's why people are being swindled. Food is not something of 2 months, 3 months. Yes, there are crops that you can get in 45, but people should start thinking. I think we've been brainwashed with this quick money syndrome in Nigeria that you just want it now. And you are always looking for that avenue where you can put 1 million, and by the end of the year, you have 1.8 million. you know, you are not thinking of, okay, if I put this 1 million, even if it's 100,000 they are giving me at the end of 12 months or 150,000, you know, people are always in a hurry, and, you know, that's why we turn down a lot.
So off the top of my head, I know at least 3 people that will be like, this man is talking to me, and they've been swindled, sadly.
20 million, 50 million, not even the 20,000, 100,000.
Lots of money.
Lots of money.
Let me come to Senator Zam. Hopefully I can get my question across to you, Senator. I know this is going to be a very, very divisive issue, and we've seen how it played out so far in the National Assembly, but it ought not to be if we have a common goal in mind. So maybe by way of, as we wind down, really, can we speak to what's in it, even for the herders themselves? Because I think that might be a game changer, because I think what they might see it as is, this is against us, forgetting that there's actually a lot in it for them as well. So does your bill capture that? I know the Senate President has said there should be like a major parley about this after its scale second reading, but what are the things, how does this benefit the herders themselves, so they know that this is also for them? Please go ahead, Senator.
Well, this bill is a win-win advocacy for both the pastoralists and the farmers. Let me start with the herders. When you keep your animals in a ranch, you have saved yourself the torture and the hazard of trekking from one corner of the country to the other. The animals are kept in one place. They are given proper health care. They are given proper feeds, and therefore the yield in terms of procreation is better. And then the ranch policy will also create job opportunities for other people involved in livestock business. For example, if you establish a ranch, maybe in Zamfara, not only will the herders be engaged there, other workers will be employed to take care of the ranches in terms of keeping the facilities in good condition. The animals are given better health care in a sedentary environment where veterinary doctors can attend to them. Therefore, there is a propensity for the animals to even produce more under less strenuous conditions that they are exposed to by way of open grazing. And then, what about those people that will come all the way from wherever to come and buy those animals in your own location? They may lodge in hotels, they will buy their food, buy your food. Therefore, the entire value chain from animal husbandry or livestock businesses will now be blossomed, such that many people will now become part of the whole process. Then you are saved the problem of fighting along the way. You are also saved the hazard of losing your cow or animals from attacks. So it's the best thing that can happen to any professional engaged in livestock business. So I would seriously advocate that they key in. It is just a matter of awareness. Let me tell you, India is the world's greatest country in animal husbandry. Look at the population of India. They eat a lot of cow meat, and they are comfortable because these animals are kept in ranches. They are not involved in any clashes with any farmers anywhere. And so they are doing well. In Africa here, Ethiopia is one of the biggest producers of livestock. And they are doing well because the animals are ranched.
All right.
Why is it that Nigeria that does not even have many cows? Nigeria has about 20 million heads of cattle, you know, and then we're having all these problems.
Thank you very much.
The long-term effect in all of this is that the country is seeing no peace. The herders themselves are suffering because when we are not able to go to farm, Where will they get the food to feed themselves? Because not only the animals need food, the herders themselves need food. So when there is a sharp drop in agricultural activities, as it is the case now, we are going to have a scenario where even the herders themselves will eventually not have food to eat. And therefore, it is only advisable that they key into this program of ranching to save themselves all the troubles that are there that they face from day to day open grazing.
Thank you very much. We hope that at the end of the day, both parties are happy. Whatever the decision, let us just ensure that food security is achieved in Nigeria. Thank you very much, Senator Titus Tartenger Zam. He's a senator representing Benue Northwest Senatorial District. And thank you very much, Mr. Tunde Banjoko, a farmer and MDBO Farms. Thanks a lot for your time and your contribution on the morning brief. All right, so I guess that's where we end the show for today. Thank you very much for all who sent in questions, for all who sent in comments. Thanks a lot, and that's the show. I'm Anne Nwawadu.
And we can't say it enough that together we can do so much, but when we go alone, I doubt that we can go very far. So let's stay united. Join us again tomorrow for another beautiful edition of the program. I am Bukola Koga. Even if you don't have access to a plot, you can plant in your little flower pot, at least for your mental health. Well, Sunrise Daily is next. Stay with us here on Channels Television. I'm Kaido Kikilo. Have a productive day.